The Drop with Frank and Brian is officially brought to you by Switch Suspension. Switch Suspension specializes in all vehicle chassis components. Lift kits, lowering kits, air ride suspension, wheels, tires, steering, and brake upgrades. They use all the best products from the best brands. And these guys are truck guys. You roll into their parking lot at the shop and they all drive custom vehicles. So they use their products that they sell on their own vehicles. So if you guys are looking for anything for your vehicles, whether you're just starting out or you just need some replacement parts or whatever, give them a call or visit their website, switchsuspension.com.
Why, hello there. Have you needed a welder? Have you looked at buying a welder? No need. So here's your chance to win one. Rose Metalworks and Eastwood Tools have decided to sponsor the next giveaway item for the Drop with Frank and Brian podcast. Their next giveaway item is going to be a MiG 140 welder from Eastwood Tools. All you have to do is go to livelifecustom.com or grindertv.com, spend at least $5. It's going to get you at least one entry for the MiG 140. I want to thank Frank and Brian for wanting to team up for this giveaway, and I also want to thank Eastwood Tools for supporting our cause. Thank you for helping the truck scene, and thank you for supporting all our small businesses. So if you guys want a chance at a MiG 140 Eastwood welder, make sure you spend at least $5 at both their websites. Who knows, you might be able to finally finish your project. See you guys.
Well, let's start there.
Hey, let's start right there.
Yeah.
Welcome to this week's episode. We're sitting down with our good friend Angelina.
Let's have you introduce yourself.
You introduce yourself. Yeah, it was always us being like, and me stumbling through trying to introduce somebody.
So let's
Angelina, please tell us about yourself.
who you are and what you currently do.
Yeah.
Well, it's so nice to meet you guys for the very first time.
Yeah.
I'm Angelina Alcantar. I teach at Riverside City College for Automotive, and I guess I don't really know what else. That was pretty basic.
When someone puts you on the spot, you're just like, what do I do?
I don't know. Yeah. I have appeared on Real Mechanics Stuff YouTube channel, a little bit of Donut, and so those guys are my buddies now, and yeah, just a big focus of my life is our RCC Automotive, our apprenticeship program that we built about 2 years ago, and the YouTube channel stuff that I've been doing, and then obviously along with being a new mom. And so it's been
which you might hear in the background a little bit, a little here in the background.
And if people tuned into our last week's episode, which I think it'll be last week's episode, we're back sitting in the same living room that we sat down with Eric, because you and Eric are partners, and you know you got a kid together and all that good stuff. So yeah. So that ties into everything. If anybody's wondering, like, why are they sitting in the same place?
That's because they both live here.
Yes, we do.
They both live here.
Coexisting.
They're partners in crime and in life.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Eric told us about like you guys meeting when you were younger, and like the whole neighbor, like you guys were neighbors, and like he was this G looking dude in lowriders and stuff.
Definitely. Eric was Cholo-esque at the time.
He was your Cholo and shining lowrider?
He was my Cholo and shining. He was a Cholo and shining Cadillac. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And,
I like that.
It did the first three-wheel motion. That's what got me, and I was like, I had to have him. And 22 years later, here we are.
That's so crazy.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Crazy.
So like we kind of start in the beginning to like, because we always like to find out like kind of like what got you up to the point that you are now. You're a teacher. You were a high school teacher before, and now you're a college teacher. It's not a college teacher. You're a college professor. Correct?
So some people will say that. If you want to get technical, I don't have the degrees to be labeled a professor. But on some levels of the college, they'll call me a professor. But people with doctorates will be like, "Well, hold on."
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't want to like what's the right word? Not cheapen, but like make it any less. Like if that was like,
it doesn't.
If I was like, "Oh, you're a teacher," you're like, "Well, I'm not. No, I'm more than a teacher."
I mean. Professors profess, right? Mm-hmm. Teachers teach. To me, it's all the same.
Okay.
You're just sharing information that you know with people to try to help them out. So, I mean, I don't know if you want me to go through a brief description of how I got to where. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we want to know what got you into cars. Was it your like real quick, like your parents, or was it brothers or sisters, or was it just life experience? And then, like, you just went deep into it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Because a lot of people get into it and then just kind of like the side thing.
Yeah.
But this is your entire existence.
My whole life.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we did. We turned what we've been doing our whole life and just kind of made it our thing. And
right.
You did the same thing.
Yeah, right. So I was always interested in cars, even as a kid. My uncles would joke around back and forth about like, Chevy versus Ford and, go tell your stepdad that his Ford sucks or whatever. So there was like a little bit of that in my family, but I didn't come from a family of mechanics. Nobody in my family is a mechanic. My mom's a big like DIYer just at home with everything, and when she was young, would do her own oil changes and stuff like that. So I kind of just come from a family of DIYers. Mm-hmm. But it really popped out when I when I came into high school. I had a love for it moving next to Eric. Eric was a big enthusiast at the time too, so that was like something we kind of had in common and shared. I still didn't know anything about working on cars. My high school didn't have any programs or classes.
Oh, so you weren't in an auto shop thing in high school?
Nothing.
And this is in the Riverside area,
This is
right?
in the Riverside area, yeah. I went to King High School, and they unfortunately had no trade programs at all. And, Eric was kind of like a at-home DIYer too. So I learned from him. We met when I was like 14 years old, very young. Nothing illegal. Okay. But
calm down, everyone out there.
Calm down, everybody.
She was outed Eric as like a predator.
I know.
She's 21 now. It's legal.
Yeah, it's legal now. No, we were high school sweethearts, but I learned a lot from him, and I also taught me, because the first time I saw brakes being done, I was like, oh, that's not as hard as I thought it might be. I could do that. And so just kind of branching out, doing things like that. When I was in high school, I lowered my Civic by myself, and that took 2.5 days because I had no idea what I was doing. I was using those stupid hand compressors, and it with like a regular ratchet and back and forth, popping off, cuss words, the whole thing. But when I was done, the sense of accomplishment and the sense of how cool I thought I looked in my lowered Civic, it was like all worth it. And that honestly was like a big fork in the road for me of like, man, this is really cool. I did that by myself, and I look cool because I did that. And one of my neighbors went to RCC, and I was like, well, I'm taking auto classes over there. When you get out of high school, you should come over there. And I was like, really? So my parents did not want me to be a mechanic. I used to resent them for that a lot, because I'm like, you held me back. What if you had supported me? But I understand now in my old age that they just didn't want me to have to work hard to make money.
I see.
At the end of the day, they didn't want me to do, slave labor, in a garage. And I understand that and respect that. But it is something that I enjoy. And so I told them I was going to school for nursing. And
when you were going to RCC,
I was taking like prereq classes for the nursing program, but on the side I was taking my auto classes. And
not to cut you off, sorry, which is not a bad idea sometimes.
Yeah,
because
you find out who you are.
You find out who you are. Yeah. That's the time to find out where you want to go.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just as important to know not just what you want, but what you don't want. Mm-hmm. And that's what taught me that. At the end of the day, I have to look myself in the mirror, and at the end of a 12-hour nursing shift, I have to be okay with what I'm doing. Not just like, oh, okay, made mom happy. I want to make my mom happy, but at that point I was like, you know what? I love you, Mom. I'm sorry, but I got to follow this. And they were confused at the time. Why? What did we do wrong? But at the end of the day, now if you were to talk to my mom and my dad, they feel proud because I followed my passion, I followed my dream, and all of that. So my instructor that was at RCC, my first one, his name's Paul O'Connell, who's actually a colleague of mine now, my mentor. He was passionate about it. He was a really good teacher, and so it inspired me to like, oh hell yeah, I want to be a mechanic, and kind of the rest is history. I finished out the program, got my 2 associates, one in automotive electrical, one in automotive mechanical, because that was our certificate patterns at the time. I ended up getting a job at a local shop. I worked at a private facility for like 6 months, and that didn't work out. I don't even need to go down that rabbit hole because that was a journey in itself. I worked for free.
Oh, wow.
I did.
Like an apprentice?
Yeah. No, well, yeah. He had me doing jobs on my own and doing stuff that was...
So
I should have been getting paid for it. He definitely was. But at the time, it's like, who's going to hire an 18, 19-year-old girl to work in the shop? And this is different times, you know? So I was like, whatever, I don't care what I got to do. And I worked for free, got some experience. And then I went to a Honda dealership for a couple of years. Ended up going to a hot rod shop because I was a completely change of pace. I'm born and raised fuel injection and electronics and computers. And then I went to the hot rod world, which is so different.
Right.
And I'm like, I know what a carburetor is, but I have never worked on anything that was carbureted, points, ignition, things like that.
Because at that time at RCC, were they not even teaching about carburetors?
No. In fact, my instructor that I had mentioned, he's like, you're not going to have to worry about this. We don't do this anymore. But I mean, most mechanics aren't going to go into a hot rod shop. You know, I went into a unique situation.
What was the name of the hot rod shop?
Ted's Rod Shop. Still open today, on Ted, Riverside. Yeah. So, Eric's still running the shop. He was my boss then at the time too, and I learned so much. And what was really cool about working there is I got to use a lot, not necessarily like let's say the computer side of things or fuel injection, but I got to use a lot of what I learned in school versus the dealership. I kind of didn't. Everything was very much like, don't ask questions. Just, you know, at most dealers, and my dealer folks, please don't hate me for this, but it's easy to say, you know what, I've got a known good part right here because your part store's in-house, has all the parts you need. I got this known good part. I'm going to just trade it out and see if it works. And it works, cool, good. I never had to do any diagnosis. So it's easy to get lazy as a dealership technician. Not saying all dealership technicians are lazy, but there was this kind of we'll say norm that, you know, why are you asking questions of the why this happened? We don't worry about that. We need to make money. We're on to the next job. And I didn't really feel like I vibed with that. I wasn't honestly, I wasn't a very good dealership technician because my mindset's not hustle. Like, I'm not motivated by money at all. I have to really like what I'm doing. And I'm listen, as a lady, we all know we're a little bit more detail oriented. Our guys are generally big picture, which is why we will balance each other out so well. But being detail oriented in a dealership environment, especially with a brand like Honda, you're not going to flourish. And I just didn't feel like I vibed. So being at the hot rod
because
shop,
like the whole dealership experience, like you said, is just I don't want to say like it's monotonous.
It is.
It's just monotonous, just swapping parts.
So it's just like building a new car. It's just like an assembly line.
It's very different problems. Like, you're not going to rewire a car, right? So, like, I had a lot of skills in electrical and wiring that I never once really got to use for that. I will say my electrical diagnostic skills really came in handy because there were some technicians that worked in the shop that didn't have those skills. And so I was able to kind of share what I knew with them and also practice a little bit. Like, hey, maybe have you checked voltage at the fuel pump over there? Like, well, no.
You're like sneakily like guiding them.
I mean, definitely nobody wants a 21-year-old girl telling them how to diagnose a car there. But it was a lot of fun, and the group of friends I made at the Honda dealership, they taught me a lot too. Some of the other technicians. Each place I went to really taught me a lot. And at the hot rod shop, I was able to be a lot more detail oriented. I had the chance to completely, you know, do a custom body harness and do these other things. And if you would have asked me, you know, can you do these things? I would have said, no, I've never done that before. But my boss put a lot of faith in me at the time. Eric, my boss, not my partner, Eric, is, you know, kicks over a speedway harness and he's like, that blazer needs to be rewired, set it up. And I was like, Okay, sure.
Yeah.
But I already had a really good electrical base, so I understand the fundamentals. You just got to put the puzzle together. So I learned a lot in that shop. I got to build some rad engines in that shop, which at a dealership, you're not going to get a chance to rebuild engines. That's just not, they don't do that. You replace a short block or replace a cylinder head and it's done.
I don't want to like derail the conversation here, but so I bought my Tundra just recently, and you've heard about like all the shit going down with it, like the recalls and the motors blowing up and stuff like that.
I don't know that. For the new Tundras, what's going on with that?
So basically, without getting into the mud and the whole thing, is they were spinning bearings. Just all these motors were spinning bearings.
Geez. Okay.
Then there was there's a couple explanations for it, but I mean that's the weeds of it. But the basis is they were spinning bearings and they needed to change, they swap out these motors, and everybody was concerned. Like, okay, well, what is Toyota going to do? Are they going to have these mechanics like pulling them apart, replacing bearings? Are they going to, or are they just going to do a short block and throw a motor in it and call it a day?
Right.
So, and I can see kind of like what you're hinting at, that like for someone to disassemble a motor, change the bearings, and put it together, not a lot of people can do that.
No.
So if they recalled 100,000 Tundras. So imagine now 100,000 Tundras sitting in these dealerships and these mechanics pulling them apart, putting them back together. So everybody's like super concerned about like, they better
quality
be quality control.
Yeah.
And Toyota, as far as I know, they stepped up and they were just like, we're just gonna put new motors in these things.
They're putting new long blocks on them all.
Oh, I said short blocks. Yeah, long blocks. Yeah, they're putting
just the whole everything.
Yeah, everything.
Wow.
Just pull one out, slap one in.
That's nuts.
And so like I can see it, and now that you're kind of like alluding to that and explaining it, living in that dealership life, I can see why they were like, no, just
screw that,
slap that in there.
Yeah. And you figure over time, not many dealership technicians, not many technicians in general are classically trained, if you will. But we're getting to a time to where that's not really feasible anymore. You kind of have to go to school because you can really mess some stuff up by learning, or you have to shadow somebody for a really long time to get to that same place. So, but kind of back to what I was talking about at the hot rod shop, I got to utilize all of this knowledge that I was starting to trickle away because I was like, well, I don't get to use any of that. So it was a lot of fun. And the feeling you get, when I was in school, I built my Honda engine. My 98 Honda Civic.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but I have questions, and I want to ask them before I forget. So the Civic that you were talking about lowering and stuff, is that the same Civic?
That's the same Civic.
Because we were talking to Eric about that, about you've had this Civic since you were
15 and a half.
That's
what year?
So great.
What year and what's the specs on it?
So it's a 98 Honda Civic Coupe. They call it an EJ8 would be the technical term, but people would look at it and say it's an EK. And it is the engine is the engine that came in it. I won't say stock engine. It's the D16Y8.
It's just the one that came with the car.
It's the one that came with the car. And at the time when I was building that car, everybody was doing swaps, B swaps. That was like the thing at the time. Now, then they went to K, and now they're doing all kinds of stuff now. But I was like, I'm going to keep this car forever, and one day it's going to be a classic. I want matching VINs. So I was like, I'm going to take the engine that's in it, and I'm going to rebuild it, and I turbocharge it, and
sick.
and then we could go like down a whole nother rabbit hole of the Civic and explain it, but that was the first engine I did build.
I was going to ask you that question too, which was the first engine that you pulled apart and put back together? And
it's that one. Yeah.
So you have a lot of firsts with that vehicle. Like,
so much.
That's so cool.
So much. I can never get rid of that car, so it will be my daughter's.
And looking back, it is a classic now.
It's a classic now. I was like, I knew it.
And one other little thing that you mentioned, you're like, man, I lowered the Civic and I thought it was like looked so cool. It's because it looked cool. Like lowered Civics look cool.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like you took some like a Cavalier and lowered it.
I almost had a Cavalier as my first car, so that
really?
would have happened. It would have been a lowered Cavalier.
Yeah, which would have been a terrible choice. Like Eric's Lumina.
I do think from time to time, like, what kind of car person would I have been had I been or my first car been a Cavalier? And I'm thinking, like, man, I would have been weird as fuck. Like.
Everybody that has Cavaliers, I know a few people that have Cavaliers, and they fixed them up, and they're like this, and I'm like, no, man, that's weird.
It's
I can
weird.
only think of one that looked halfway decent, and it was that one with the huge billet wheels in the
They
back
put
of
like
it.
an LS in it. And
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, that's the only one I can think of. That's pretty cool.
But like Pontiac Sunfires.
Oh yeah, well I mean pretty much the same car.
Yeah, they were all just, and they
Oh,
were
sister
junk.
Sunfire.
They
junk.
were not good
Yeah.
They were
cars.
all junk.
They were definitely. There's a reason why we don't see them on the road anymore.
I saw a Sunfire the other day, and I was like,
that's a rare
that's
sight.
a rare
Yeah,
sight.
My
But
sister
you'll
had a
see,
convertible.
yeah, you'll still see Civics, and you'll see
Totally.
and
Yeah,
Corollas.
Camrys, Corollas.
That's a,
Yeah.
that's a really interesting question to ask yourself. What kind of car person would you be had you started with a different car?
Yeah.
Because there are we're talking about Sunfires and stuff. My sister had one of those. Not that she was a car guy or car person,
Yeah.
car person at all, but it's just like how many people could have become car people had they had a cool car to start with.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
I like to think that I would have been a car person anyways.
Yeah.
But I would have been a
You
weird car
probably would have been
person. I would've-
figuring.
Yeah, who
you,
knows?
You wouldn't have been building it to look cool. You would have been trying to figure out how to keep it running.
That's
true.
very
Yeah.
possible too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah.
Because have you ever looked into like the history of Saturn and that their design team and why that whole thing happened? Because they were
No.
trying to compete in that segment of like sport
Civics
compact
and-
cars.
yeah.
And if you ever have time, sit down. There's a YouTube video on Saturn and the design team and everything. And it's really interesting.
Yeah, I'll
It's
have to
cool.
watch
Yeah,
that. Yeah, because they're an interesting company.
Yeah.
And just being plastic and all, like their strategy was different,
It was,
interesting.
mhm.
So I'll have to look into that. That's cool.
Yeah. Honda and Toyota always just had it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they did. Well, okay, so they wait until a company, let's say like GM, has already put out a new technology. They work out all of the kinks, and then they're like, okay, now we'll hop on.
So they're
board.
the iPhone
yes
to Samsung.
yeah.
Samsung
Yeah,
puts
yeah,
out the
yeah.
tech. iPhone goes, let me make this. Let me fine tune this.
Yeah,
that
pretty
makes
much.
sense.
Especially a brand like Honda, you'll notice they're not the ones that are usually coming out with like the new next big
Yeah.
technology. They're not on the
BMW or
forefront.
Mercedes.
BMW,
Yeah.
Mercedes, right, and even products like GM and Ford. Are more, we'll say, ambitious, right? Honda's safe. Toyota's safe.
That's why they last long.
That's why they last a long time.
Except for now they have all these motors blowing up.
Oh, well, unless you have a Tundra. Yeah. I mean, there's little things here and there.
those motors
Honda had some blocks that were porous. Every
and
car
that's
company has
that's the
something.
thing is like when I was going through this whole thing and like researching it and reading about it and the reason it's so jarring is because Toyota, this never happens to Toyotas. No one remembered when a Ford was recalling stuff or I forget. There's so many examples that I can't recall at the moment. But there are other car companies who had just as like big things happening.
Everybody
no one
does.
remembers it.
Well,
Everybody does. It's a blip in history. We all move on to the next
And also
recall.
the one video that I was watching about the Tundra, the guy who put kind of everything in perspective is called the Car Care Nut, and he's on YouTube, and he's like trying to educate people on exactly what's going on and why, and not fall for like the crazy like hype or anything like that. And he's like, people don't even remember the throttle sticking 20 years ago. No one remembers that.
Pepperidge
Prius.
Farm remembers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the Ford Explorers that were blowing tires and rolling.
Oh, that's see?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's really funny about that is that was not a Ford Explorer problem,
It was a
or
tire
even a
problem.
tire problem.
Oh no.
It was Ford's strategy problem with tire pressure. So people buying the Ford Explorers, they would, and I believe, was it also Expedition or just the Explorer? Well, I think Explorers had the higher center of gravity and
Yeah.
it's shorter. So, but the problem is you buy this Explorer and you're like, man, this thing rides like a truck, It's like, well, it's on a truck chassis. So what they were doing to combat the rough ride is they were lowering the spec for the tire pressure. So it was more comfortable. But the problem is who stays on top of their tire pressure and maintains it? Not a lot of people.
Yeah.
They should, but they don't. And so the tire pressure would drop. The tires would overheat because we didn't have TPMS back then. And
Oh, wow.
next thing you know, 13 people flying out on the freeway. Out
Yeah.
of
And see, and then kind of like earlier in our conversation, we were talking about like the tax and everything like that. See, like that's the explanation, but a lot of
Right.
people just be like, oh man, those things are flipping over left and right for no damn reason,
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to it.
There's
But
always a lot more to it. And that was a transition in automotive time too, because we were moving from station wagons, minivans, and sedans
Right.
to these SUVs as daily drivers, as family cars.
Right.
And so if you're moving from like a sedan or a wagon or a minivan and you get into this SUV that looks like those things, but it drives like a truck.
Right.
So
you're like trying to
you're trying to like, no, I don't want this rougher ride. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
And then also, you know, your driving strategy should change if you're in an SUV, right? Like those are going to roll over much easier than a station wagon. So.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, that derailed you completely on what you were saying.
Went off on a side quest on the Civic, back to Hot Rod Shop. After the Hot Rod Shop, I ended up leaving the Hot Rod Shop to go work with one of my buddies. He was starting a new shop called Green Voltage. Shout out to George.
Yep.
But he, at the time, there weren't any shops around that were really specializing in hybrids, and Puri were kind of popping up all over the place, and he wanted to try something new. And so he branched off because he was one of my coworkers at Ted's. And I ended up following him because I really liked the idea. I knew there was a future in it, and I've got ADHD, so I was like, ooh, next thing, you know. And so there was a big market for it too. So I kind of branched off and followed him for a while. But that one's really hard because unless you have a really good marketing strategy, at the time there wasn't enough ways to get the word out. And so it was hard to stay busy because it was too niche at the time. And like I said, you know, maybe with better marketing, it would have been a little bit different, but we didn't know that, you know?
In a different time.
It was completely different,
Because now there's this huge secondhand and thirdhand Prius market where you can just replace the batteries and the cars will run for another...
Right. Yeah. There's a potential with rebuilding the nickel metal hydride batteries.
Like taking them apart?
But the problem is a lot of people don't do it correctly. So the rebuilds, especially Dorman, is a big brand that has a really bad rap because even though they have this wonderful warranty, it's like, okay, well, how many times am I going to have this customer come back in and I have to replace this for free? You know,
is Dorman making the new?
Dorman's a big brand that makes the rebuilds, but the problem is they're not balancing them correctly. So I did do a training with Mark Corto at Future Tech where we learned how to properly balance without going down the rabbit hole. And it was interesting to know, everybody else is doing this and they're not doing it right, which is why the batteries aren't lasting. But there is a market in it, especially if you're doing it right. But like I said, this was 10 years ago, different time. So that was for a short while. And then Colton Redlands Ukaipa ROP had a position open to teach at the high school. So I taught at Colton High School for Automotive for 4 years, which was a blast. It was stressful as hell. But I really enjoyed my time with those kids and just being able to inspire them. And even if they weren't going to be mechanics, they were empowered moving down the line. They're all going to drive cars at some point in time, right? So that was nice. The problem is I'm not the type of person who can just leave what happens at work at home. And I ended up being more of a counselor at school than I was an automotive instructor. And it just hit me too hard. It made me just depressed. Some of my students were dealing with hard problems that were worse than what most adults deal with. You know, there were students who didn't have they were sleeping in a park for weeks and I didn't know. Wow. You know, and parents who were not responsible and doing not good things. So they're living with their very elderly grandparents and nobody's really paying attention. And so there's a lot of kids that get lost through the cracks and they all shove them into automotive naturally.
So they show up in your class.
Yeah. So, but it was a wonderful opportunity for me to learn about teenagers because I think it gave me a really good perspective moving into the college space. Because after graduating RCC, I did spend some time as a supplemental instructor, so I held study groups for automotive classes, but classroom management. And I'll tell you what, if you can learn how to manage a classroom full of teenagers, a classroom full of college students is nothing. Right. So it really helped give me perspective to make me better at that job.
Because like high school kids, like you said, they sort of like filtered into this pocket that they ended up there because those kids have to be there. Do you think it's a difference also like in college because they want they want to be there?
Absolutely. Not just so not only do the students want to be there, they're a little more mature and things like that too. But that's the hard part. Even at the high school level, students who did want to be there, because I had some students who were really enthusiastic. They'd stay after class, ask me questions and things like that. And but they're still teenagers. And I think it's natural as teenagers, you want to know where, we were talking about this the other day, where you fall in life with all the other teenagers and where you kind of rank in the hierarchy of high school. And you're so much more worried about the social aspect of life and not as much of class stuff. So even the enthusiasts were still halfway in and halfway out. But yeah, the college students, it was a dream compared to the high school classes. Much easier. I did feel like at the high school I wasn't getting to exercise the knowledge that I had and be able to. So I did feel like I was almost like losing some of that. And getting back to the college, it's a bit more challenging, but in my eyes, a lot more fun because I get to get into the weeds and I get more in-depth questions because students are doing homework and we spend more time in the lab getting to do more complicated things. So I really, really enjoy that.
That's
so
cool.
I'm in my 6th year full-time at RCC as a tenured faculty member. And I mean, being a graduate of that program and teaching there, I was also part-time there 2 years while I was at the high school. So I just have so much roots at that college.
Talking to Eric, like RCC is such a base for a lot of like where you and Eric and Matt Hutchinson, RCC is like this, like, what's the right word I'm looking for? It's like this, the base for you guys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it all comes right back to RCC.
Is a big, just in Riverside in general. You know what I mean? I went to RCC twice, not for very long. Because those damn stairs.
We talked about the stairs.
Challenging campus. There's a lot of hills. Yeah.
But just in because everyone, like all the high schools, everyone went to RCC because it was they have good programs there for so many different things.
Definitely. They have it's such a huge campus. They have so many programs. It's a wonderful community college because of that. Not many community colleges have the diversity of programs that we do, which is really cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So explain what your program is and what it all entails.
So our program, I'm gonna let my dog out so she stops pitter patter.
She's trying to tell you something. She's like, "Bro, I gotta get out."
I know. Please. Yes. I almost named her Turbo, but I'm like, everybody names their dog Turbo, so Chassis was nice.
I like Chassis.
Yeah,
because she's a little tiny. We're talking about a tiny Chihuahua. Tube chassis. I like it.
So RCC's automotive program, we have changed from when I was a student. We had 2 big certificate programs for the automotive side, not the body side. And what we did was Paul O'Connell, my mentor and now my colleague, him and I have been working together a lot on the program of how to make it more friendly or usable to students going into the industry, right? Because it's kind of the whole purpose of it. Community college, it's our job to serve the community. That's the way I see it. I'm paid by the state. I'm paid by the state government to provide a service to the community, and that includes students as well as our employer partners. So what we wanted to do is try to make our program more friendly to that. So we broke it up into what we called, bite-sized chunks. So we made it 5 separate certificate programs. So one is powertrain. That's going to be your engine and transmission rebuild. That's going to be like for heavy line techs, right? Then we've got our undercar certificate. That's going to be your brakes and chassis specialist. We have our electrical and electronic specialist certificate. That's going to be exactly as it sounds, focus heavily on electronics, electrical, some engine performance, and air conditioning, but it's all electrical diagnosis. Also advanced driver assistance systems, communication diagnostics, all of those things. Then we also have the engine performance certificate. My brain stumbling for a second.
That's fine.
Engine performance certificate, which is not like, we're going to put turbos on cars. It's how engines perform. It's going to be essentially your drivability certificate, and it's a big focus on fuel system diagnosis, ignition system diagnosis, along with computer diagnosis and things like that as well. And then we have our hybrid and EV certificate program, which is incredibly robust. I'd go as far.
You put a lot lot of effort into building
tons.
that.
Yeah, tons. So I worked with Paul O'Connell on that as well. We started building the program together. I team taught the what we now call the Intro to Hybrid and EV course, but we expanded the program so there's an advanced level course, and he developed all of that. He really took what we had, and he made it something amazing and beautiful and advanced, and something that quite honestly, I don't think in Southern California, I don't think any other community college is going to provide what our hybrid EV program provides. And I'd almost go as far as in the whole state of California. We put a lot of time and effort into that. And we've been fortunate. He's also our department chair. So he's got some good connections at the college. And when money's sitting around because somebody else didn't spend it or a grant comes in, it sounds easy to spend money, but it's not. You'd think like, oh, if I say, hey, I'm going to give you $250,000, I need quotes for everything by the end of the week. You're like, okay, that sounds wonderful, but going through in the work and the hours that goes into getting, the list of what you need, because it's like, put you on the spot. You have all these ideas in your head, but the moment I ask you, what do you need? You're like, shit, I don't know.
Yeah. That happens like when someone asks you like your favorite song. Or
exactly. So that's tough. And then also going through and getting the quotes for all of these things, and so he's really good at spending money, and but in a good way. None of it's wasted dollars. Like, we have such a diverse fleet of cars. So we have old stuff, and when I say old, early 2000s, things like that for students to screw up suspension and brake stuff on. And please don't break stuff as a student watching this. Like, we tried to keep things nice, but to do the firsts on, what I mean? And then when they get into the advanced level courses, we have a huge fleet of new vehicles too, to do advanced level diagnostics on communication, when a power seat's not working properly, or, hybrid EV stuff. We got tons of hybrid EV stuff, very diverse. We have almost a little bit of everything except for Audi and Rivian. So if you're watching, super diverse. I teach the engine rebuild classes, engine upper and then engine lower. I also teach electrical. From time to time, I'll teach automotive principles, which is your basic level class. I used to teach brakes. I did used to teach the hybrid EV courses. I'm kind of all over, but the classes I teach now, I've kind of got to hone in and specialize in. Yeah. So my engine machine shop, if you will, is also quite built up compared to most programs. I have a Rottler H85 CNC hone, which not many. It's an amazing $250,000 machine there.
I've been in the building.
I've got a crank balancer. I got tons of really cool stuff, and it's because we're such a well supported program. RCC's really been good with supporting our automotive program, which not a lot of other colleges do. So I've been very fortunate. Very fortunate.
Has that been challenging at times to get them to notice, or are they pretty good at that?
What I have found is that, especially in the college setting, there's so much going on with all the other programs. I'm not one I don't like bragging about myself, but the fact of the matter is the people around campus are not going to know what you're doing unless you say it, unless it's kind of broadcasted. So we've been trying to, over the years, expand that and kind of make sure that it's known what it is that we're doing on campus, especially with our apprenticeship program, because a lot of things are tied to labor market data and like how many placements are you getting out of your program and things like that. Okay. So about 2 years ago, I was given an opportunity by Launch Apprenticeship, which is kind of a go-in-between from the state to the colleges, because they work with many colleges. And they said, okay, well, we want you guys to do an apprenticeship program. And being the micromanager that I am, I was like, okay, but if we're going to do it, we're going to do it my way. and we're going to do it right. And what that meant for me is we are not just going to send just anybody out on behalf of our program.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure it's our cream of the crop. We're going to make sure it's our good people. So I said, okay, well, if you want to work with us and you want us to have an apprenticeship program, then students who go into apprenticeship have to get a B or better in the intro class. I'm not going to place anybody in the intro class into an apprenticeship position because I want apprenticeship to be career oriented, not like I'm getting my toes wet, which we still have another avenue for Jiffy Lube, Valvoline, that type of stuff if you are getting your toes wet. So we have like a pre-apprenticeship, if you will. And so they have to get a B or better in the intro class. They have to maintain 87% attendance, and that accounts for shit happening. You get sick, family, kid, whatever, but you have to be there 87% of the time. And then the most important thing, and the third thing, is going to be students who want to be a part of the program have to attain an instructor referral. So what that means is a student in my class or any of the other instructors' class, we observe them for a month or so, and we see, do they have all the employability skills that an employer service manager is going to look for? Do they show up on time? Are they consistent? Are they doing their homework? And are they getting their hands dirty, if you will, in the lab activities, not just copying off of somebody's lab sheet? We see a lot more than what students think we see, because we try to be observant, see who's getting in there and who's not. And we want to send somebody out who's going to check all of those boxes. Somebody who's mechanically inclined. You know, you can tell when somebody's working on stuff like, is this going to work out for you or not? And I, as an instructor, have the privilege of seeing that. As to our service managers, it's an investment every time they hire somebody. And somebody might interview really well. They got a great resume, but they don't know who they are as a person. And I get to do that for them. I get to vet that for them. And so what we've done is I've built a wonderful relationship with a lot of our local partners, because they know when Angelina sends me somebody from RCC, it's going to be,
it's not going to waste their time.
It's not going, they're not going to waste my time. Now, is every situation going to be perfect? No, of course we've had a couple of unfortunate situations.
Never 100%.
Right.
It's always
and what I have learned is when you send somebody out that's less than stellar, and that relationship gets ruined, they will never hire from you again.
So
all it takes is one. So I'm incredibly protective.
So
incredibly.
Who are the partners that are working with you? Is it?
Okay, so we have a lot of the local dealerships in Riverside. So we've got some of Metro. So we've got Volkswagen, we've got Nissan, we've got our local, not just Kia, of course, Ford. I'm working on Chevy, but Walters Auto Group has some luxury brands that we work really close with. So Mercedes, Porsche, and this includes Riverside and Ontario. So 2 Porsche dealerships we feed, 2 Audi dealerships we feed, 1 Mercedes dealership with Walters Auto Group, and they're a wonderful partner of ours, big supporter, and we send a lot of people their way. They like picking up from us. I have probably 5 or 6 apprentices with the Porsche brand right now. I had 2 apprentices that left, and one of them finished our program, went to Ferrari in Silicon Valley. Another one went to Ferrari in Beverly Hills. We work with BMW Riverside. We work with all sorts of dealerships and lots of also local shops as well.
I was going to ask that. So like it's not just dealerships. It's like a bunch of different businesses and stuff. Independent
repair shops. And that one's a little bit harder because they don't hire on a large scale.
Right. And with like working with smaller shops or mom and pop shops, they're probably much more, because like you said earlier, these companies are investing in these students as are they going to produce? Are they going to make me money? Basically?
Yeah.
So it must be more challenging having a smaller business because they have to be extra careful.
Definitely.
Because like I have to spend time they're already trained, but to train them within their thing. You know?
Definitely. Yeah. I'm not sending out master mechanics. These are people who are still students in the program.
Okay.
That's what apprenticeship's for. It's not for the graduates. The goal of apprenticeship is so a student who fit the categories that I mentioned, checks those 3 boxes, they get into apprenticeship. I interview them, each of them. At one point we had 80 apprentices. Now we're at 70 something because a few graduated. But we're the largest automotive apprenticeship in the state of California. That happened on accident. I just got a little ambitious, and next thing you know, I was like, oh, we're the biggest? I didn't know.
That's the thing. You are so passionate about getting all of this, like, it's so cool to see you so passionate about taking these students and getting them in jobs and putting them on their career paths. Like, it's pretty amazing. It's really cool.
I am really passionate about it because I was them, you know. I was, and we had a wonderful program at RCC when I graduated, but when I came into the program, I thought, what did we not have? What can I do to make this program even better? And that was one of these things that kind of fell into my lap, and I was like, this is what I needed, because I knew how to, like, I had jobs, but I was a waitress. Like, I didn't know how to fill out an automotive resume. I didn't know how to go to an automotive interview. Like, all of these things were question marks, and I also didn't know how to navigate the industry. Like, I thought, okay, I want to be a Porsche tech one day. And this is, 15 years ago or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, how do I get there? I probably have to work for a lower brand, get some experience first, and then work my way up to like a next mid-level brand, and then work my way up to Porsche. And that's not how you do it at all. So if you want to go about the long way, but what I have learned through my long experience in the industry is that you have to go straight into whatever it is that you want and start from the bottom, sweep the floors, do whatever, and work your way up within that arena, because it will take you so much longer to get in from the other avenues.
Because you would have to do that anyway.
Exactly.
Like if you're going to Honda, trying to work for like BMW or whatever. You have to just start
and you're going to start at the bottom multiple times, and
Yeah.
that's hard to do. So I learned that, and so I get to share that with the students. And it's just so freaking cool to see, like, students who I was their age, let's say at 21, and at 21, what was I doing? I was probably an express technician at Honda, and I'm thinking, I look at some of my 21-year-old students who probably would have been in that position as well, but the apprenticeship program has empowered them to have much better opportunities, and now they're working at Porsche. Like, they're living my dream, and it's so cool to see that they get to do that.
What's your success rate for students, like making it all the way to that point, like coming in as someone into the program who doesn't, I don't want to say knows anything, but as someone who's a novice to working for Porsche? Like, what's the success rate? Like, what am I trying to say?
It's not really a success rate, but it's just like a follow through. Like,
like how many actually finish? Like, when someone who comes in as a novice and starts the program and gets to that point, like,
so
how many people do that?
Like I said, we're only 2 years in, so it's still early.
Like, I see.
But I do have a graduate at Ontario Porsche who went through our program, and he's a technician at Ontario Porsche, kicking ass. He's doing really, really well. And then the ones in Riverside, they're kind of in the earlier stages. So if you want to work for a brand like Porsche, you're going to have to do one of two things. You either start as a porter and you spend 1 to 2 years parking cars, washing cars, doing those types of things before they invest in you, either to send you to PTAP or make you an apprentice because you've completed a program at RCC or another college, and then you get to break into the technician realm. Or if you want, some people don't like to do that because they're like, well, I'm learning all this stuff in school, and what if I lose it because I'm not using it because I'm parking cars? So some people like to go that avenue. Some people will say, okay, instead, I'm going to go and try to work for, let's say, a brand like Mercedes or BMW or Audi or Volkswagen even, and they'll cut their teeth in there. And when I say cut their teeth, actually, all of my apprentices cut their teeth in Jiffy Lube or Valvoline. Every single one of them.
Oh, okay.
That's just par for the course. I'm going to send you either to one of those or a tire shop, and you're going to spend 6 months to a year there, and then you're going to move into the next level, which would be a dealership or an independent shop. I want to get them used to shop flow. Because I want you to also know what it's like working on a 105-degree day under a hood, and do you really, really want this? You know?
That's good. That's
on
a good
some
point.
piece of shit too, not something nice.
Not a brand new Porsche or something.
Exactly. So it gives them perspective, and when they make it to that next level, they have a true appreciation for it, because you have to. If you're just given something, then you're like, oh, okay, whatever. But if you had to work your way up to it, then there's something behind that, and you feel pride in that, and you feel good, and you value it. So that's kind of what we do with most of the apprentices. And I do have some, it's so funny because I had some that thought they maybe wanted to go to a brand like Porsche, and they end up with a brand like Audi, and they're like, actually, I really just like it here.
So what is the difference there? What, like
the
just
the
basic
type of
difference.
customer.
Oh, okay,
that makes sense too.
There's just a different culture.
Yeah.
Each brand almost has different cultures in itself, and I'd say, you know, Honda, Toyota, Nissan has Mazda has a certain culture. Ford, Dodge, Chevy has a certain culture, and then you have the German brands have a certain culture, and I kind of pair them all up like that. And then you have the your Land Rover Jaguar kind of also falls in there because that's a luxury brand, and we work with our local Indigo Auto Group Land Rover Jaguar, and they're one of my favorite partners as well. But yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell what we do with them. And then at the end, the plan is you don't graduate and then get a job. You graduate and you have either certificates or associates, whatever you choose, and you have full years of industry experience.
Right.
So when you're done with us, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got your career. You make enough money to put food on the table and take vacations and have insurance.
That's cool.
And have something real and tangible, rather than starting from the bottom when you get out with us. So it's like an earn while you learn type of model.
And this is where I want to kind of get into what we talked about last night a little bit. But before that, our country in general has a terrible way we go about stuff like this, like apprenticeships and stuff, where countries like Australia and most other countries,
European countries
is like, if you want to be a plumber, like the government will subsidize your income and you go work with a plumbing company.
Right.
So that plumbing company has no investment in you. So like they're not investing their money in you. They're investing their time in you. But it's your choice to go work there because you wanted to be in that trade or auto body or whatever.
Right.
And so it's kind of like what you're doing, where once this student gets into that thing, they didn't have to spend a bunch of money on.
You did your apprenticeship.
You did your apprenticeship already.
Yeah.
So,
and that was the model we followed.
And that that goes right into what I call predatory universities.
Yes.
Angelina's like, I want to talk about that.
I have been wanting to do something in regards to this for a long time, but it's just like these universities, and I don't even know why they're allowed to call that, like, use that word. It's just, it seems like that word should be set aside for real universities. When I think of universities, I always think of like UCR, UCLA, USC, like these things that are accredited.
Not Phoenix.
Not like
University.
Phoenix University, or there's so many out in Arizona because they give them such huge tax breaks and stuff. So
everybody can say they're a university.
Yeah, and it's like their marketing strategies. They put so much. I know people that film and edit for UTI. So
their commercials are great. Makes me want to go. Like, man, they look like they're having so much fun. They're working on cool cars.
It's such a marketing thing, and then you get accepted into them.
You know that they have an application fee? That's so funny to me.
So,
we're gonna charge you to apply to come to our school.
And then it's like this whole thing, and then you graduate.
Yeah.
And then you think it's like. You think you're just going to go right into a dealership.
Well, and they tell you that.
And they make it
you're
seem
going to be a master mechanic. You're going to be the shit, man. You're going to make top dollar. You're going to be making over $100,000 when you graduate.
Yeah.
It couldn't be further from the truth.
It's very used car salesman,
Definitely.
very scammy, very in and out. These students are not students. They're just numbers. And you leave in debt.
Yep, about $60,000 in debt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think give or take there. And then that's
and
not
it's not
including
just automotive.
the interest that you're going to pay on that loan.
Yeah.
And as soon as you graduate, you pretty much have to pay very shortly after that.
Yeah, and it's very predatory. It's very scammy. And it's not just automotive. It's graphic design.
Right.
Culinary is a big one.
Right.
Because what do you see on TV when you go on the Food Channel? Chefs. The Food Channel is insane. You know what I mean? Like, so
it's almost like they're using that as like a
they are, because they're
like a marketing tool, like a recruiting tool.
You can set up a studio, make it look like a badass kitchen, and make a commercial, and now you think you're going to be a chef at a fancy restaurant when you graduate this thing, and that's farther from the truth. Like,
predatory is the correct word.
It's very predatory, and there's so many people making money on it. Not just the colleges making money on it, but the banks giving the loans.
Oh,
and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's from the top all the way down.
It definitely is. And the people who they target, it's almost like, you know, like, oh, okay, we're going to outlaw flavored vapes because it targets kids. Like, this targets kids.
Right,
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
These kids who don't know anything about taking out loans, who don't know anything about interest rates, who don't know anything about these things that you're telling them and sliding under, like, oh, don't worry about that, just sign this, and you know, you'll pay that off. You're going to be making so much money anyways.
Right.
So it does suck. You know, if you're going to sell it straight through what it is, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But the problem is that they don't do that.
Yeah.
They sell you something that's not real and is it complete. You cannot take a novice who doesn't know anything about cars and then tell them in a year and a half you're going to be a master mechanic. I don't care how good of a teacher you are. You cannot do that.
Yeah.
You cannot do that. First off, okay, when you say master mechanic, does that mean ASE master? What does that mean? And if we're going to use the term master, not ASE terms, even if we were going to use ASE terms, but to be a master,
And what is
they
ASE?
say ASE is Automotive Service Excellence, and that's the industry certification that standardizes. Like,
Gotcha.
you know, it doesn't mean you know everything, but it does mean at least you know this much.
Gotcha.
Aren't you an ASE?
ASE master,
Yeah,
yes,
an ASE
yeah.
master.
So to be an instructor at the college, that was a prereq for
Oh,
the
I see.
job. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, when I put out the question thing like that, that's what I meant when I said, oh, Angelina, you know, automotive teacher, master mechanic. That's what I was alluding to.
Right.
Because
Okay,
if you
yeah,
don't
yeah.
say ASE,
And
if you just say master, it's very...
Well, and because that's because
Subjective.
I didn't. Well, and that's because I didn't know exactly. I didn't want to like false advertise like ASE.
Yeah,
you know,
no, but
master
I'm not
mechanic.
talking about that. I'm just talking about these schools. When
Oh,
they say,
you're back to
Yes,
you're
school.
yeah,
going to be
yeah.
a master mechanic.
Right.
It's like,
How
well,
many
what-
hours
what-
does it take to be a master at something?
if I
10,000.
I'm a,
Right, at
I-
least.
Yeah, like if I go and do something to my truck that I didn't think I could do, I'm a self-proclaimed master mechanic.
Right. Yeah.
I've mastered
You mastered
that
yeah.
thing. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's very. People need to like stop and think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I taught at the high school, I used to tour UTI.
Yeah.
Not because I supported them, but because I wanted them to see the beautiful campus and all the things that they would get sold, and then say, okay, we tour our CC's facility, we saw some of the other local colleges, and then we're going to come back to the classroom, and the next day we're going to talk about what we saw, and we're going to talk about the loan that they're going to ask you to take out, and we're going to talk about what interest rates are, and we're going to talk about these things so you know what you're getting into. If you want to go to UTI, that's fine, but I want you to know what you're buying.
Yeah,
That's
I
all.
was when I was in high
Informed
school.
consumer.
When I was in high school, and I was in auto all 4 years of
That's
high school.
rad.
And yeah, they came in there and did the spiel, but they didn't follow up with the other stuff. And I had already kind of had an idea on what I was doing, so I was just sort of like listening and checking stuff out. We never like toured a campus or anything, but they had so many people come in there with videos and talking and giving out free stuff and like all this
yeah.
all this crazy stuff. And so I wasn't really into it, but I had many friends that fell victim to it.
Oh yeah,
And-
me
There's
too.
There's a bunch of people we know
Yeah,
that.
but like you were saying, they never followed up with, hey, because I was going to ask you that as an automotive teacher, like how did you navigate? And that you just explained it.
But most people don't know there's options, and that's the thing. It's like,
Right.
No, what can we do to make that better? Obviously, we're going to have a podcast. There's going to be a lot of people listening that have kids that they maybe want their kids to be mechanics, and it's hard for me to like. I don't want to just go out there and say, "Don't do this," like what I mean,
Yeah,
or whatever. But
yeah.
like, explore your options.
understand what you're getting into.
That's just it right there. And here's the problem. Community colleges are state funded. We don't get 60 grand per student in the seat. And so our marketing budget is not what UTI's is.
Yeah.
And I will also say for most community colleges, we don't have good marketing teams.
And I think I'll let you finish your thought, but I really think that really does a disservice to community colleges, because community college, since they don't have the budget or the means to market themselves correctly, they start getting that like negative connotation of community college. Like,
Right. Well, they don't know.
You didn't make it into a university. You're going to
Right,
there's like this
right.
real like
There's-
negative connotation.
Absolutely. Everybody hears community college and they already think loser.
And then it doesn't make it any better. I mean, it is a hilarious show, and I love the show, but the show Community,
Right, yeah,
like,
it
that
doesn't.
help
It feeds
anybody.
it right. It
just
almost
feeds
it
into
almost
that.
feeds the stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of colleges are starting to pick that up because of social media, and
Because
they're realizing we're really missing the mark.
yeah.
So right now, RCC, we have we now have like a marketing committee.
Oh, cool.
One of my colleagues at the school, Patrick Skellen. He's doing a kick-ass job of trying to reform a lot of the way people see RCC and the programs at RCC and things like that. So it's changing, and I think it's because social media, and then also some younger people are getting employed, and they're like, we need to be a part of this. And so it's growing faster, and I think it will get better. But if anybody is listening and they are thinking they want their kid to be in such and such field, the first thing you have to ask is, are they passionate about it? Because if you're going to do blue collar work, there's so much good opportunity, so much money to be made. The getting is good for sure. However, they're not, all of them are not easy jobs.
Right.
They're going to be challenging physically and mentally. And so you kind of have to like it if you're going to do that day in and day out. So the first prereq needs to be like, do you like this enough to do it? And if the answer is yes, shop your local options. What community colleges do we have around? Because we do get overlooked all the time. And I used to say that RCC is Riverside's best kept secret, because so many people don't know, because we have so many programs. There's so many things that people don't know that we do.
Marketing is so important, especially in this day and age.
Totally. But if you're not a business owner, you don't really look at it like that.
You have to be on the forefront of the searches.
Right.
So if someone just goes, I want to be in the automotive.
And then they Google it. It's all UTI.
UTI,
Yeah.
biotech, It's all these things. It's like no one would ever even know. They would never even know. And there's such a stigma around community college and college in general. It's
just academia education in general.
I don't know if how much you follow this, but like, there's a lot of memes that go around that just say, you don't need college. You can just go work at the tire place and be a manager and make a bunch of money. Or you can go be a plumber and make a bunch of money, which is true. But you don't just leave high school and go do those things.
Is someone here?
It's probably groceries.
Oh,
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Do they just leave them on the porch?
You get groceries delivered? That's tight.
Yeah. Instacart is dope.
Instacart.
Yeah.
I'm from the hot desert. We don't have that.
I live too far away from the grocery store. But yeah, so like that stigma could scare people away too.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you don't need college, and you're just like, yeah, I don't need college. Maybe a blue collar worker. Yeah, but a blue collar worker still needs training.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point, because we think of college as college and academia, and not of it. What we need to start looking at community college as the technical term is post-secondary training. Yeah. So high school would be secondary, college is after, so that'd be post-secondary training. If you want to make money anywhere, you have to have skills that other people don't have. You have to, right? And if you're going to have skills that other people don't have, well, where are you going to learn those skills?
Right.
Somebody's got to train you. Maybe you watch a bunch of YouTube videos and you get these skills. I don't know. I'm sure there's more than one way to skin a cat. But the fact of the matter is, probably one of the easiest and best ways is for you to learn from professionals at a training facility. And again, we're state funded. You're already paying for us with your tax dollars.
Yeah. So, and also your time is valuable. So if you're spending time at a community college getting trained, you're not spending time, maybe wasting time at the Firestone down the street where the manager's not going to train you. If you're starting,
well, we might have you there, but you're going to be learning in class while you're doing that.
Exactly, but you're not wasting time.
Exactly.
Trying to find your way.
Exactly. And then also, not only is the tuition so much lower at our college, if you make it into apprenticeship, we completely cover your tuition and we'll give your books on loan. So that helps out too. But you are getting more from the instructor, because you figure UTI's program's about 1.5 years, right? Give or take. And the problem is people, we live in an instant gratification society. People want things right now. I can become a master in 1.5 years. That's what I want, right? The ugly truth is it's going to take longer. And if you want the skills that other people don't have, you're going to need to invest more time. So something that UTI may spend 3 weeks in, we spend 16 weeks in. You're going to get more information, more detail, more time to practice what you've learned. So you, at the end, yes, you spent more time, and maybe you were with us for 2-3 years, But we need to start thinking about that as a true and through apprenticeship, like Europe, or even other states like Texas do this too, where you need to get comfortable with the thought that this is not gonna be instant. You're gonna be married to this for a little while, but guess what? This is your career. So if you want to be good at it, you want to be valuable, then make yourself valuable, invest the time into yourself to be able to make that kind of money much faster.
And I feel like any marketing department needs to figure out how to tell someone that in under a minute.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or get someone like how UTI will like wham, bam, bam, bam. Like someone needs to figure that out for the community colleges.
Yeah.
Whether it's culinary, automotive, whatever trade that can be trained at a community college. The other good thing about community college is while you're doing that, you could go take a class in law or go take a class in this. Like there's other opportunities to also do
Totally.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Venture
Like,
out. And, you know, if you end up deciding you change majors, then that's fine. That's part of life.
yeah,
you
or
know?
just something else interests you.
Or just,
And you could just like, I want to learn about history.
to become more enriched. Well, that's kind of where the associate's degree comes in. And everybody, you know, really right now prioritizes doctorates and masters. Most jobs do not require a bachelor's.
Yeah.
So if you get a bachelor's or more, like if you're looking into a career path, whatever that might be, maybe it's IT, maybe it's this, maybe it's this, you really need to look at what's the minimum requirements for degrees to get in. Because if you want to work in IT, you might need a bachelor's, but you don't need a master's. So why waste the time and money to do that unless you need to do it? Get the job, and then if you want to continue your education, then do that. But we keep selling higher degrees because somehow it makes us feel better about it.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, it go with what's needed. And I do think associate's degrees are good because you learn about history. You get basic English and math skills, and it makes you a little bit more well-rounded, which does help give you a leg up in other positions. Maybe you don't want to be a mechanic forever, and maybe you want to work in a management. Or maybe you want to become an instructor, or maybe you want to do something afterward. The skills you get from those associate's degrees can help you do that. So it does make you a little bit more mobile.
And that's what my kid's 15, my oldest kid, and you know, we grew up knowing this, but she's learning it too. Like just knocking out all like the prerequisites.
Prerequisites.
Yeah, in community college before you go to the university.
Definitely, you can save so much money.
Exactly, that's what we were explaining
and
to
the instructors know your name. The instructors, like, I'll just be real, the instructors at community college tend to care about you more because they're smaller class sizes.
And like my kid wants to, you know, she's shooting high for like the UCLA's and like those type of universities, and that's saving her so much money, so not doing all of this stuff that she can do basically for free. You know, and then the money that she's saving there can get her into one of those really nice universities.
Absolutely. And from what I gather, a lot of Cal States and UCs actually like that. It helps them because community college is the kiddie pool for college, right? So it teaches you kind of the culture on a campus and the way things work and registration and all of these things.
And how to navigate it.
And how to navigate it, exactly. You know, counselors, because all of this is so much different than high school. High school is a world different than even community college. And so it does allow for that. I'm going to let
the dog in now. She's like, I'm done, man. Let me in.
Yeah, that's where like... where, you know, we talked a little bit about social media last night and stuff like that. And it's like, don't get your information from your buddies on social media.
Right.
If you're going, like, ask people that are involved in whatever. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Ask people that are going to these things and just search your options.
Yep.
Because you don't need to be in debt.
No, for sure.
Not at all.
You don't need, you can do all of this so much easier.
Even if you paid for, so let's say you're an automotive student or any student, well, I'll just say automotive because that's what I know. That's our, if you're not in apprenticeship, like let's say outside of apprenticeship, you're paying for everything out of pocket. You don't get any financial aid, anything. You're gonna pay max $3-4 grand max,
which is
max for years of training.
Yeah, years.
Wow.
That's that's what I'm just like. I just want to get that out.
And it's not all at once, so you can't get into debt.
I
you're
just want to
going
get
semester by semester, so I'm paying $250 here and $250 here, and you know, so it protects you
and you're not
from
paying interest
these
on
interest rates. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not a victim to this.
Exactly.
And I just want to get that out into the world because it pisses me off.
Yeah. It pisses me off too. It pisses me off too. And, the amount of UTI graduates that we get coming into our program because they're like, I didn't learn enough, unfortunately.
Wow.
And so it sucks because not only do you have to fit this large bill with the interest rates and the payments and all of these things for years, now you have to go to school again. Because they didn't do a good enough job.
Do you know of any other community colleges that are putting this much effort and time? Because you basically put a lot of effort and time into this.
I put my whole life into it.
So do you know, has any other community colleges reached out to you about anything?
They're starting to right now because a lot of programs are seeing the success of our program and they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is the answer is you need a dedicated faculty member who's willing to put in the time. The college needs to support them and pay them, which RCC does for me. But you have to have a faculty member because the person teaching, the person with the industry experience like myself, I came from industry. I teach this. I work with the students and I talk to the employers. I can speak the language. Another person at the college, they might be great at talking to people, but you can't speak the language.
Right.
So coming from industry, it allows me to speak the language. It allows me to be a good in between the college
You're like
and the
continuity between the two.
You have to understand how it all works.
Exactly.
State government, local government.
Exactly.
Like you have to understand how that all works.
Exactly. And so that's kind of what is being navigated right now. This has been trial and error. We're learning new things every semester as this program goes along because nobody else is doing what we're doing, at least locally anyways. And so I'm starting from scratch and thinking that this is the way I think something should be done. Oh, maybe that wasn't right. Let me try this way instead. And but each a new problem, as much as it stresses me out, it's like, you know what? This is a problem and it's stressful because nobody else is doing it. And so we're going to overcome this. So my goal is to essentially build a playbook that we can share with other colleges. And so I'm always open with like, hey, if other faculty members want to talk to me or reach out about what I'm doing or how I'm doing it and why we're being successful, I welcome it.
And that playbook doesn't necessarily have to be the automotive department playbook.
No.
They could apply that thinking to anything.
To any trade.
Exactly. And then, you mold it to that. Each trade is going to be a little bit different. You figure something like welding, they're very union based. And so their apprenticeships might look a little bit different and their industry relationships might look a little bit different, but you still need that factor.
Yeah, right.
You still need the faculty member with industry experience to be able to make this relationship. And the fact of the matter is, not only do you have to work with the students, have industry experience, you have to be personable and you have to be able to sell your program and sell what you're doing.
And that's what you have such a unique skill to do that, because that was going to be one of my other questions is what's your relationship with what you do in SEMA, and like that's sort of what you're doing. Like you've developed these skills to how to talk to people, how to get what you're trying to say across concisely and clearly, and have the other person understand. Yeah. So is that what you do at SEMA?
So honestly, I used SEMA as a tool for many years to hone these skills.
Oh, that's
because
cool.
I was so awkward. Like I didn't have any of these skills. I would get clammy, my hands would get sweaty, and I'd want to walk up to somebody from some aftermarket company that makes parts for things or some brand, whatever, and just to say, make a relationship. This is what I do. This is what you do. Maybe you can help our program out this way, or maybe this can be symbiotic. Mm-hmm. But to explain that, to make the introduction is hard enough.
Yeah.
Because then you're
like a cold call,
hi,
basically.
I'm Angelina.
Yeah.
I like bread. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah, it is a very scary thing.
It is. But the more you do it, the less nervous you get and the better you get at it. And now it's very easy for me. But that took years. And I honestly don't think I would have gotten that skill with the small amount of years that I did without SEMA. SEMA really provided a space for me to work on that. And not only that, they have networking events just I had never heard about that before, where you have an event and what are we supposed to do? We're just supposed to talk to each other?
Yeah.
What? Like, okay. But then that turned out to be amazing. I met so many wonderful people through those networking events, you know, SEMA Businesswoman's Network or the Young Executives Networking events and all of these things. So you get to hone in at these events, and then you get to bring that to the SEMA show. And then, you know, I started to be like, okay, I'm getting the hang of this. Now I'm going to, even if I didn't necessarily need to make a relationship with the company, I just started practicing. Just make introduction. Yeah. What are you doing with this product? Blah, 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 blah. And now, who told me? Joey. Joey really helped me out because he
San Diego Joey?
Yeah, San Diego Joey, because he gave me a tip long years ago, and he said, to make yourself less nervous, pretend like you're hosting a party and you have to make them feel comfortable. And I was like, you know, that's a really interesting way to look at that. And that kind of helped me break out of that shell too, of like, oh, okay, let's pretend that they're the nervous one and that I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that really helped. But once you get used to it and you do it a lot, it becomes natural. But the thing is people see it and they're like, oh, you're just good at that.
I know it takes a long time.
That took a long time.
Joey gave me this great advice. He just said, walk up to him and say, where are all the white women at?
Sounds like Joey. Yeah.
I remember the first time I did that. I'm just kidding. No, it's an interesting thing. But now knowing what I know about networking, I share that as much as I can with students, like the importance of your network is key to the level of success that you want to achieve, because the more people you know, the more people with opportunities you know. And you don't know, and not to say like, oh, I meet every person with like, what can you do for me, per se, but you never know who you're going to talk to anywhere. Could be at the bar, could be at the gym, and you meet somebody who owns a shop and is looking for a mechanic. Kind of just, you know, you never know.
Yeah. That's how I've navigated my career, is just showing up. Showing up is like 90% of doing the thing, and like just going to show, from my perspective, and what we do is going to shows, setting up booths, talking to people, going to events, because like you said, you don't know who the heck you're going to talk to.
And you have to keep doing it.
Oh yeah,
you have to do it one time. You cannot do it one time and then go, okay, now it all comes to me.
No.
You have to do the same thing over and over again.
Exactly.
And then the people you meet, it might not be like a right away thing. You know what I mean? I met people that have called me
years down the road that
people call me
that opportunity arises.
Yeah, like, hey, we met a long time ago, and I saw you did videos for this person. I own a shop now, and now I need videos done.
Exactly. And that's just it. And what I always like, my uncle always used to tell me, he was a big pool player, and so he'd always say, you know, the shit's chess, not checkers.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I've always looked at life. It's chess, not checkers. We need to think about 5 steps ahead, and you don't know each person and what opportunity they bring to you, and the more people you meet, the more potential you have. And you're right, you have to keep doing it. And the more you do it, the more that network grows, the more opportunity you have. And next thing you know, you have all of these opportunities just jumping in your lap. And here's the thing that a lot of people make a mistake of. Okay, you built this network. You get these doors of opportunity in life, right? And the door opens. You are either ready to walk through that door or you are not. And what determines that is what skills you have and how prepared you are. If you're, in the wise words of Sugar Free, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. If you're ready, that door of opportunity arises. You get to take it. If it's not, guess what? It closes and it doesn't wait.
Right.
And that door may never open again. Now, that doesn't mean your life's screwed or anything like that. It just means you got to wait until the next one comes around. But you know what? Don't fuck up the next one. Be ready. Be prepared with whatever skills you need. When that opportunity arises, what opportunity you want to manifest that success, you have to do the work. It doesn't come to you, like you said. I've got to get the training. I've got to get the experience. I'm going to make sure when that next door opens, I'm ready.
Yeah. And confident, skill creates confidence.
Definitely.
And like, so a lot of people talk to me about videos and they wanted to start doing this and doing that. And they say, well, what should I do? Well, should I buy this $5,000 camera? And I said, no, you should go on Marketplace and buy a $300 camera and find a community college and take a photography class.
There you go.
And they go, yeah, but they're not going to teach me how to film cars. And I go, yeah, but they're going to tell you what the buttons on the camera do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're going to they're going to make you understand what this button does with this button, and how you can get this shot and all this stuff. Yeah, you can go and learn that. You can go on YouTube and learn that, and you can go and do it. But it's like if you're in a classroom setting and like you're learning and that stuff, it's not for everybody. I understand that, but that's kind of like it's a good first step.
You know, that's the thing, you know, and you mentioned something right now that's really important. The classroom's not for everybody. When we say that, it's important that everybody understands that if you want to have skills that other people don't have, some level of classroom is necessary.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to get it. And that's another skill that you have to work in. And if paying attention is a problem, then you sit at the front of the class. If remembering things is a problem, then you write every fucking thing down. You have to make it happen, because you don't get to we're not in the matrix that we know of yet, where you just get to plug in I know Kung Fu. Like, no, guess what? You're going to have to learn how to work the camera, what buttons to push, this. Well, how are you going to do that, bro? Unless I'm one-on-one with you and you're showing me everything come on. It's not going to work like that.
The classroom is not for everybody. It's such a it goes back to the college stigma thing. It's like, I don't need to do that. I can just do this. Yeah. And it's just like, it's almost like an excuse.
It is.
You know what I mean? It is
an
very
excuse,
just like, well,
but we've given it to people though, like by saying those types of things without context.
Yes, that's such the context thing.
Yeah.
It goes back. You can't just learn a simple thing off of one meme. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that meme is going to give you an excuse. That meme is going, you don't need to do this because you can go make money doing this.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, I can? Okay, cool. And they go and try to do it. It's like, no, there's too much context.
And then it gets conflated with the whole like School of Hard Knocks thing too.
Yeah.
Like that's the other.
Like, I grew up in the School of Hard Knocks. I'll figure it out myself.
Yeah. And then also it leaches into, well, I figured it out. Now you can. I don't have to tell you to do it. You need to figure it out because I figured it out.
I hate that mentality where I'm not going to share what I know with you, because I think some people do that because somehow they feel it pulls value from them. Like, you're going to steal my value. There's enough to go around, man. There's enough to go around.
The flip side of that too is they think that by you going out and doing it yourself, you're not giving them something for free.
Yeah,
and it's like,
okay.
It's like a free thing. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you're not giving them for free. It's like you're not like handing them something.
Honestly, you're serving society, and we should all think of no matter where you work, what can I do to contribute to society and to keep things moving? Why would I make our young people reinvent the wheel? I don't think we should spoon feed. But I definitely think that we should be trying to help our younger generation do better, and sharing information is part of that.
Yeah. And one of the other thoughts that I had to finish up the whole like networking and just showing up and doing all this stuff, there's another facet that I think is really important too, which ties into what you guys are saying, is also being kind. Like, be kind to people. You know, when people come to you, like talking about cameras or automotive or anything, and that like I was talking about, that leeching that thing where it's like, well, I figured it out, you can too. It's like, no, be kind. Be like, yeah, this is how I did it, or or push it. You don't have to, like you said, explain there and sit there with each button, but you can push them towards something.
You can give them a step.
Exactly.
Just give them a step. Just give them a little dunk. You know what I mean? Because I know what
you never know what that means to somebody. That might change their whole life.
Yeah. I have. Yeah, exactly. You know
that happened to me. I get asked quite often, but I had someone come to me who just got a camera, and I'm out there filming, just doing my thing, and they said, "Hey man, I just got this thing," and I could be like, "Yeah, just go watch a YouTube video or whatever." Yeah. But just, it'll take me 5 minutes just to explain a couple things.
Yeah.
And I did, move all my life. And then like a few shows later, that dude came to me. He's like, "Hey man, thank you so much for helping me."
Right.
P.S. What you told, like, you didn't tell me how to do it, but you gave me one piece of information that made me start thinking about, if this does this, then what does this do, and how does it? And and
you didn't spoon feed him that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, too many people think that's what that is. It's
right,
not.
It's not. It's you have to have something to start with. Right. If you start from nothing, it's so much more of a challenge than it needs to be. There's enough challenge in all of these careers. Yeah. There's plenty of challenge, but you just need that first step that somebody reaches out and says, you know what, or somebody comes out and asks you a question, and you help them out with something that relatively small to you, right? But gives them, that's their first step into, okay, now I can learn other things.
It makes them ask other questions.
Yeah.
It's just that answering that first question gives them the confidence to start asking other questions.
Right.
And I think that's the path to learning how to do something.
I think
Right.
so too.
Yeah. So
Speaking of which, hopefully you guys will come to the next networking
I was literally
networking event that we have at RCC.
That was literally just my next segue into what I was so like. Tell us about your networking thing.
It is noon. Do you have more time, or what do you got?
Let me see.
If not, we can.
I think we should be okay.
Because we probably have about 10 more minutes of.
Okay.
10, 15 more minutes. Yeah. Just I wanted to talk about your networking event, how kind of it ties to us and what we do. You know, that's it. And then you can go. No.
Yeah. So I started doing it after learning what I learned at SEMA, knowing about networking events and things like that at the college and, even at the high school. They would encourage having these career fairs, and the employers would come and they'd want to hire from you, and students trying to get jobs. Here's the problem. That means every employer that's coming has to be hiring. And that's going to limit the amount of people that we're going to have. Not to mention, that's puts a lot of pressure on students. So why not do a networking event where takes the pressure off? We're just chilling. We just want to talk, share stories. And then what's really nice is what opportunity do you get to have industry professionals come and tell you about their story and their life and how they got to where they're at. Sharing that first step. In my eyes, when you share your story, you provide an opportunity for somebody to be motivated and inspired and say like, oh, okay, like
because in the
that's not the journey I thought it was.
Exactly. In the automotive world, who knew that you could make a career printing T-shirts
or making videos?
Exactly, which is why I love having you guys at the event, because you guys are so successful in what you're doing, and to share your stories with students. I like having just a wide array of not just yes, we train technicians in our program, but maybe you're really into all this, you love all of this, but working on cars just didn't end up being your thing. There's so many avenues.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could go and film yourself doing training videos and make money doing that. Like,
totally.
No, like there's so much different.
Totally. Yeah. But even with like the essentially, and I don't know if you guys call it this, but I kind of consider what you guys do like a form of automotive journalism.
Yeah.
And the videography and everything that kind of goes into that, like that is fascinating to me. And we get students who I'm like, you know what, you guys have really good personalities, and to share what you know, if you're intelligent and you're able to convey things that you know, and you're passionate about this and you love going to shows all the time, and you actually also like taking pictures and video, like there's things out there for you and there's opportunities out there for you. You guys are great examples of that.
Thanks.
And just to have you guys there, to have people like Pinstripe Chris has come in the past, Max has come in the past,
Donut Media guys,
Donut Media, all very different walks. I've got engine builders that'll come, Esslinger, Arlington Machine, for the local guys, and then we've got dealerships and independent shops. So it's just nice, and students get to practice networking, shaking hands, making eye contact.
And it's really
cool with that.
And it's really cool from my perspective when we do it, to talk to the young people who come up and they're shy and kind of like it. To me, I really enjoy like. I don't enjoy seeing them be like shy or anything, but as you're talking to them, they start coming out of their shell.
Yeah.
That's the cool part to me. Is they walk up and they're just like, I kind of don't know. And then you start chopping it up and you start talking. And then by the end of the conversation, they're a little more confident.
Right.
In whatever they're pursuing.
Right. And that's another thing too, is you guys are so great to have because you are kind, and not everybody is who's good at what they do in the industry knows how to do that.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not their fault.
Yeah, it's
no, it's just a personality thing. But what's really nice is they get to watch you guys, and even though they're industry professionals and they're here to talk to students, they get to learn how to network too, and how to interact with people who are nervous to meet them.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's a really cool event. I love going. I know he likes going. It's great. It's so cool.
Yeah, I'll always do that.
Sweet.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You just gotta tell us when it is, and we'll be there.
Yeah. We'll get the date to you guys soon.
Yeah.
Make sure you got enough time to.
Yeah, and I have kind of maybe a one last topic type thing.
Mm-hmm.
The future of all of this. You know what I mean? Because like you said, we talked about like carburetors and stuff, and no one's working on carburetors anymore unless you're at like a hot rod shop, which that stuff will always be around. Yeah. It's just in a smaller segment. You know what I mean? So what do you think, how all of this is changing? Like, it's changing right in front of our eyes, and it fascinates me. I don't tend to like hate on a lot of progress or hate on change or hate on this. I kind of like am really interested in it. Yeah. I'm a big fan of progress as long as it's not for the sake of progress. Yeah. I like progress moving forward to be better. And if we can be better, okay, that's great. But just to, let's do something different just to be different. I don't like that, because I do think there is also value in really like what GM does with their technology. How long did it take for their LS platform to, you know, they just recently moved to overhead cam with some of their V8 stuff. And if I'm not mistaken, they might even still have some push rod stuff still going. So
I think the trucks are.
How do you squeeze that? Like, and okay, let's look at the Corvette, right? Let's look at even something maybe not new, maybe like a C6, right? How are you going to make something that makes 500 horsepower and still can get 30 miles to the fucking gallon on the freeway? I'm sorry. How can you shit on push rod if that's what they're doing from that? So that's the there's value in squeezing out of everything of what you have, but also when it's time to move forward, you move forward. And I don't think the future is fully electric. I think that's not the right way to think about it. I think it has a time and place.
I think it's going to be a big part of it.
I think so too.
It's just not going to be
it's not what everybody's selling it as. Like, oh, it's super green. It's not. Listen, it's not. The emissions are just somewhere else. Yeah. That's all. And that's what we need to look at it as. I think we don't, I don't hate on it. I love it. They're great. They're fast, very economical from a driver standpoint. But the fact of the matter is you need, it needs to be common knowledge where the battery materials are being mined from.
Yes. But that's a thing that's changing now too.
Right.
Like you said.
Because more people know about it.
Well, progress is like even where we're getting the energy from. Right. So in a gas vehicle, you have to mine the oil. It's a dirty it's a dirty thing with dirty machinery. And then you get the engine, you get the car and all this stuff, and then you have to fill it with gas, which gas has to be mined and from oil and refined. Yeah. With an electric car, that stops because the battery was mined, it's in the car, the electricity.
Well, that's not true. The electricity has
but hold on. But the electricity is changing as well. That's an industry that alongside the automotive industry is changing. Yeah, well, it is.
It has
We've met a peak where clean energy is now filling these cars. So if you have solar panels on your roof and it's charging a battery in your garage and it's charging your car, and that's like this, then we still mine the stuff for the gas car and we still mine the stuff for the electric car. So they're still mining. It's not like mining is a new thing.
Are you do you know what percentage of electricity that people are using that's coming from solar?
It's going up like crazy.
Yeah.
Like so even California.
One problem that we will have to solve, and again, I think similar with apprenticeship, as new problems arise because nobody else is doing that, you have to solve those problems. That's all. So we'll still have to solve problems like, okay, when those solar panels don't work anymore, what are we going to do with them?
Yeah. Well, even the cars right now, the car batteries, like say a car gets wrecked that has a battery in it. Yeah. They're out in the desert right now. There's companies that are taking those batteries and they put them into big storage containers, and the solar panels fill those batteries up. And then at nighttime when the sun goes down, what's called the duck curve, it's when we don't have sun anymore to provide electricity. So there's enough electricity being right now by these solar panels. It's too much. We're in excess of energy.
Right. Storage, it's not getting the electricity. That's usually the problem. It's the storage of
and
it.
So right now what they're using is they have these containers full of these batteries, and these batteries are now, when the sun goes down, they're taking from these car batteries. Or a car battery at the end of its life cycle, it's not enough to power the car anymore, but it can power your home at night. So they're taking these cells and they're making new batteries out of these cells. So these batteries that were mined once in a dirty thing have a lifespan.
Squeezing the most out of it.
They're squeezing the most out of them. So we're side by side in technology right now. So if we just stopped where we were right now, of course it's not good. Yeah. But the technology and what's happening in the energy sector is really fascinating too.
Definitely.
It's really cool. We're just in a changing time.
We are.
And if you take feelings and politics and everything out of it, it's fascinating.
It definitely is.
Just like there's opportunity to learn in the auto industry, there's so much opportunity in the energy sector.
Definitely.
So if you're going to learn about all this stuff, there's so much cool things happening right now.
Yeah.
Peel back the emotions, peel back all this
Definitely.
stuff. And
what a time to be alive.
It's
Oh,
big
yeah,
time.
for
we
sure.
went from
We are living the buggy to automotive transition.
we're living in the second industrial revolution.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. That's what I mean. So, like, 60 years ago, people were just used to doing what they were doing, and they weren't. But now we're living through this interesting time.
And and like you said, how we find out about things, so they have to change it because the information's out there.
Yeah.
So it's forcing that.
Exactly. Exactly. And
it should be. And it
shitty
should
as
be.
social media can be and the internet and things like that, it's also given us that. And that's a beautiful thing is, yes, it's probably annoying that the public knows too much, but it makes them hold accountability. It allows for accountability, which is what we all need. Accountability is good. Sometimes it's annoying, but we have to have it so we continue to be better. Right? We have to be better.
If we inch forward as society is a little bit better. It's not going to happen overnight.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
And then my
Real
example
change
is
takes time.
big time.
my example is. And it was interesting you said this earlier about just stopping and throwing your hands up at that moment, because when I was looking at electric trucks, and we talk about electric stuff all the time, when I was looking at trucks and looking at them like, this is just not a viable option, for cross country travel and towing and blah blah blah. And then I was talking to Angie, she's like, yeah, they just take so long to fill up. And I was like, well, they just have to get better. Like, they're not just going to stop and throw their hands up like, no, that's it.
The amount of
We'll get to a point where they'll charge it in 10 minutes.
Fast chargers, they're pretty fast.
But I think just my point is like,
quickly.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah,
just
yeah.
progressing and progressing.
You want to know why we're getting there quickly?
Why?
Because there's a lot of money to be made.
Oh, yeah.
And when there's
That's the thing.
like when people are like,
money's a motivator.
I can make money doing this, they're shifting where their money's getting.
Yeah.
Because in the end, money's the.
Money.
Now you got all these charging stations. Somebody has to maintain them. Somebody has to fix them. It feeds the economy.
It feeds everybody. It just puts money in people's homes. It's everything.
Yeah.
And where we have got the solar industry is fascinating to me. Like solar panels it's the scammiest industry.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
Super scammy. You know what I mean? Because it's almost like it wasn't like we don't like regulation, but then there's some things that do need to be regulated, so your parents don't get ripped off by scammy solar people that come to your door and say, "You don't want an electric bill? Let us put $50,000."
It ties right into the UTI thing too.
It definitely.
It's just
so bad.
I think
that's
we
what
have
sucks.
more predatory entities at this point in
Yes.
time, probably than ever, bombarding us in the mail, 20 spam calls a day, text messages.
Advertise it on YouTube. Like in Arizona, we go like, get your solar installed free if you live in these area codes. And I'm like, well, let me check this out. And then I go, oh, no. This is not what it like. Come on now. There's got to be. It's just like
fake news.
yeah. It's just like, just stop and think. If it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And where good intentions come from, like solar's good intention, UTI's even a good intention.
Sure. Started off very good intention.
Yeah, but then they figure out a way to make it like faster and faster and faster.
Yeah,
faster.
money's so good with helping move things forward, but at the same time, things need to be checked because if there's money to be made, then they don't care who they have to step on to get it. And that's the hard
and it just
part.
attracts the con men.
It
just
does.
attracts the bad
Predators.
people. Predators. There you go. Well,
that was fun. Thank you for sitting with us.
No, thank you guys. I've really been looking forward to this.
We got to do another
I'm glad
one.
I got a chance.
I think we have a lot more to talk about.
no, I think we will. I think we'll definitely do another one.
I like checking in with people, like having guests back on.
I think we'll do the next one. We could do it with both Eric and Angelina together because I wanted to do this separately because you two are, as much as you're a team, you're two separate people.
Totally
separate types of people. The same but separate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I think next time we're really going to get into the weeds of like that. We went over your whole automotive like career journey, but I want to go over your automotive journey, like cars you've had and like
I love that.
Cars you want.
and why you think Corvettes are the best car ever made.
I mean, bang for your buck.
It is the best.
And then we'll save. We didn't get a lot. We got just a couple questions, so the questions weren't really a thing. But we'll try to gather more questions from people. I think once they see this, I think we're like getting into this area with some people that we've had on where people know you, but they don't like
Our
know you
audience
enough
might not know you
to like ask the right questions or ask questions at all. But I think once they hear this, they'll be like, "Oh man, well, what about this? What about that? What about this?" So
it is it's so fascinating what you're doing. I love it.
Oh, it's so great. You're one of my favorite people.
Thank you. Well, you guys are some of my favorite people.
We're all
it's always fun talking to you.
Yeah, we're just all the favorites.
Favorite table.
All right. Well, that's
cool.
it. Huh?
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.
Later.